clearly, prices are the defining issue with roughly 150 days, Nicolle, till early voting starts. And I saw a number that was shared with me earlier today. $250 million has been reserved by the House Majority PAC. They are to elect more Democrats in November. Listen to the states they're putting money in now. Tennessee, South Carolina, and Alaska. So U.S. House races. And this is like picking these economic issues for the Trump administration is like picking up a bunch of kryptonite and juggling it if you're Superman. You are begging for trouble.
Yeah, I mean, Rick, maybe it's a lagging indicator, right? I mean, maybe the country had to focus in on what a fraud the promises made by Donald Trump really were. And you've got Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson amplifying the fact that Trump was full of it. But the grift has been a feature for a dozen years. I mean, doing all of the country's business at his hotel in the first term. I mean, David Barenfeld, I think, won a Pulitzer for all the reporting on the emoluments clause, and you just couldn't sustain an argument. But I think Claire and Scott are both making the same point, that the domestic politics have caught up with what is now the most brazen version of Donald Trump shoving fistful of money into his family coffers.
Yes, and to dot the I and cross the T, I would say that Democrats have to show there's a correlation between corruption and affordability. But because there are these people that are making billions, you know, exponentially more than anybody ever has in any kind of corruption scandal in the U.S., that's part of the reason that gas is high, that you can't afford your home, you can't afford your groceries. I mean, the irony of all of this, too, is that he has made America open for the corruption business, right? I mean, people look at what the UAE did, investing in the Trump family business, you know, pledging $1.3 trillion of investments, which is a fantasy, and then they get a break. That they get a break that America is going to wash their dollars for them and give them back dollars. By the way, when I was in the Obama administration, we did an anti-ISIS center with UAE. The UAE paid for it. Throughout our recent history, the Gulf states you do deals with them, and then they pay for things. Now they're asking for mercy. It's really strange. And by the way, they're getting it. They're getting it because they have corruptly contributed all of this money to the Trump family. I mean, you're right. I mean, the UAE has been a good partner in countering extremism around the world. But this is different. I don't want to conflate their conduct. They're now enriching the Trump family. Yes, they're enriching the Trump family because they have a corrupt family themselves. I mean, the Emirati royal family runs that country. I mean, 85% of the population of UAE are workers that do the labor for that 15% of the billionaire class. If you just look at their per capita income for the non-workers there, it's like $250,000, $300,000, way more than the U.S., and they're asking for a bailout. I want to show some more. I mean, some of this, just to own our piece of this, is the media's inability to sustain our attention on the corruption that happens in full view. So Scott, I'll make you sit in that with me for a minute. This is the Associated Press's reporting. Company backed by Trump's sons looks to sell drone interceptors to Gulf states being attacked by Iran. Quote, a drone maker backed by Trump's two oldest sons is trying to sell to Gulf countries while they're under attack by Iran and dependent on the U.S. military led by their father. The sale is driven by Florida-based Power Us, which announced a deal last month to bring aboard Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr., positions the company to potentially benefit from a war that their father began. Power Us co-founder Brett Velikovich told the Associated Press that the company is making sales pitches that include drone demonstrations in several Gulf countries to show how its defensive drone interceptors could help them ward off Iranian attacks. Just never thought I'd read two paragraphs that said any of those things.
You also got to keep in mind, these things would land more. They'd pack a lot more punch, Nicolle, if the Department of Justice was not an extension of the White House, which at this unique moment it is. It is deeply politicized. It is sycophantic. It is an extension of the White House. So these headlines may get memory hold. People may let them slip because they know there's no stick at the end here. There's no way to leverage change. But I also think this is going to beg the question, how much more are we going to hear in the coming months, over the next 2.5 years, about preemptive pardons? We've heard flirtations with that idea. We've heard a lot of whataboutism based on what happened January 19, 2025. I think that that's going to echo more as the weeks go on.
Yeah, I think it's an important piece of this, Claire, right? We have to keep in mind that there isn't a functioning criminal justice system by design. Again, also something that happened in full view. His first day as president, Donald Trump pardons violent insurrectionists who carried out their crimes on national television. So the quiet acts of corruption are not going to be things people are held to account for while he's president. But why can't some of these actors see that this moment will end, this moment will pass?
Well, I think I think Scott's probably right. I think they're all counting on pardons. You know, we think he's pardoned a lot of people that have greased palms already. We know that. We know the pardon process is in shambles in terms of who is getting to the front of the line and how they get there. He's pardoning people that have been put in prison by his own Justice Department because of their writing checks to either his political organization or to his meme company or to his family, whatever. So I think everybody who's doing this bad stuff figures they're going to get away with it because of pardons. And, you know what's really ironic about this is it's not just the DOJ that's sleeping here. It's also the Pentagon. I spent years going after some of the waste and fraud that happened in Iraq. Spent time in Qatar, yelling at folks about non-compete bids. I don't know if you remember all the scandals in Iraq of all the contractors that were getting no bid contracts. And the Pentagon really did a much better job after Iraq of beginning to clean up and make sure that they were leading the world in anti-corruption. Corruption was all over Afghanistan. Corruption was all over Iraq. Corruption, I'm sure, is all over a lot of these countries in the Middle East. But America was always the country that wasn't going to put up with it, that we were going to ferret it out and go after it. Now we're like, got the flag in front of the corruption parade and saying, hey, come on board. Let UAE slip us some money and we'll take care of you. It is really a black mark, not just on DOJ for saying nothing and doing nothing, not just on the members of the Senate that are Republicans that are saying and doing nothing, but also on the Department of Defense and the Pentagon because they're letting this go on.
Yeah, I mean, there's a child's book called Caps for Sale. And every time I read these stories, I think, president for sale, president for sale. Stacks and stacks of deals to be done for a president who's for sale. A remarkable, remarkable moment. There's a lot more on the story to tell you about. That's ahead when we come back. We'll also turn to what Scott foreshadowed, the domestic politics, a new poll from Donald Trump.
Are delusional? I don't know what it is, but yeah, that's not the case.
It's not the greatest economy in the history of our country. It's not blowing out of the water.
Struggling. People are struggling financially, and it's affecting people mentally. People are more aggressive, and I don't blame them. Like the pressures of, paying their bills, and so I get it.
I mean, how do you see it in your life, in your day-to-day?
I mean, I'm having to work harder, breaking my back, definitely adding stress to my plate. But I just try to be positive and try to do the best I can. All I can do is work harder. And so I have nowhere back left, at least.
That was our colleague Alex Tabbitt reporting on how voters feel, talking to one frustrated voter in Florida who said she's just going to have to work harder while Donald Trump's kids play in the prediction markets. Donald Trump's war in Iran isn't just tanking his approval ratings now, though. He's also bringing the entire Republican Party down with him. A new poll from Fox News finds that Americans prefer Democrats over Republicans on the economy. It is the first time that's happened since the year 2010. We're back with Claire, Scott, and Rick. Wow.
Yes. So, the most dangerous thing for a politician to ever do is to tell the voter what he or she should be thinking or what he or she is feeling. So that woman who said it very articulately, that people feel bad about the economy, that recent poll showed that more Americans think the country's going in the wrong direction than any time in 30 years. And Donald Trump is saying, this is the greatest economy in history. this is the greatest stock market in history. You know, oil prices are going to come down. I mean, there's nothing that makes voters think that someone is a liar to have someone contradict the evidence of their own lives. That's what they completely understand. And so, you know, the larger thing is that the sort of the Rahm Emanuel line that the Democrats have to be the party of stability and the Republican is the party of chaos. People like stability. You know, the economy likes stability. Businesses like stability. And so the Republican Party has become the chaos party.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Scott, this gets at I think, the domestic politics you were referring to. I think the other piece of it, though, is that when Donald Trump says our country's hot, that's because the people that paid to join Mar-a-Lago so they could run into him in the omelet line are the same people we started the broadcast talking about, the ones enriching themselves in the prediction markets, the ones leading the Trump boys to their corporate opportunities, if you will, to put it most generously. But Trump's political power was that, and I never thought it was real, but a lot of voters did, he seemed to speak the language of a person frustrated by a rigged system in the American economy. He has lost that capacity. He no longer cares to even try to understand that voter, and it seems to have left 75% of all Americans open and available to voting for somebody else.
I spent the day speaking with Senator McCaskill's old friend and old colleague, Sherrod Brown, who is trying to grind out votes in places like Steubenville, Toledo, Dayton right now. And the senator said, how is it not being discussed in Washington by Trump and team, the issue with data centers, the issue with utility costs, which are paying for your electric, and of course, what you pay every Saturday morning for food, leaving all this opportunity there for Democratic challengers to own those issues. If you go through the headlines of regional, local, small-town newspapers, you see data centers are driving the agenda. It's a big issue in local communities. Trump's not talking about it. And he's not talking about how we're going to get prices lower. Instead, we're talking about money for the UAE. For a Republican Party, which is now on the verge of campaigning on America First, trying to ride those coattails of Trump, what version of America First is money for the UAE when gas prices and food prices are what they are? What kind of bad movie sequel, Caddyshack 2, new Coke version of America First is this going to be if they try to argue prices are just fine?
Yeah, I mean, Claire, it is so interesting that the Republicans have nothing except the aggressive, sycophantic posture of a party that still acts like it's afraid of Donald Trump. Why?
Well, first of all, if you look at all the polling, he has dropped with non-MAGA Republicans significantly. But his number is still pretty strong with MAGA Republicans. And there's a lot of folks in that group that are struggling, that are having difficulty paying their bills. So they may be saying to pollsters, we're not giving up on this guy because we've staked so much of what we believe in around his personality. But they're living a life that they know is not what he promised. So I think the Democrats get that. And the one thing I want to start stressing when I have an opportunity to speak on this network is people need to start paying attention to places like Iowa and Alaska. And, you know, obviously for my friend Sherrod in Ohio, yes, we have some rock stars running that have gotten a lot of attention. But how many people watching this program know the woman who's running for the Senate in Alaska? How many know about the great candidates we have running for the Senate in Iowa, where they have a real chance because the Republican governor there is so... It wasn't that long ago that we had Democrats from those states representing folks in the Senate. And I just don't think everybody realizes this map has gotten bigger. So pay attention. And, you know, we're not going to have all that dark money behind the curtain that Donald Trump's going to be able to put together from all the people that are making his family rich or the people who are getting pardons. But we do have people that give 10, 15 bucks a month. And I just hope everybody pays attention and starts helping some of those candidates that really have a chance in places that we weren't even talking about a year ago.
Well, Claire, I mean, you're here, I'm here. Why don't we have, I mean, your point is that the candidates for the Senate in Alaska and Iowa aren't getting national attention, and we can do something about that. Let's have them on together on Monday.
I think
they're free.
I think that's
okay.
I think that's
okay.
a great idea. I'll be in studio Monday, so we can do it.
Okay, all right. Well, what's today? I don't count days. It's Wednesday. We'll try to do it before that. But if you're going to be here Monday, we'll reach out to them today and see if we can talk to them together on Monday. I love it when a plan comes together like this on live TV. And I've got all these witnesses, so it'll be the one thing on my to-do list that I don't forget about by the time I get home. Claire McCaskill, Scott McFarland, thank you both for starting us off today. Scott, I love your content. Keep doing your great work. Rick, sticks around a little bit longer. After the break, in the middle of a war and a naval blockade of Iranian ports, there is more chaos to tell you about at the Pentagon as the top official at the Navy is ousted. We'll bring you that reporting next. States of America actively engaged in a naval blockade of Iranian ports in the Strait of Hormuz. Like, that is our military strategy right now as a country at war. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth decided that now would be a great time to fire the Secretary of the Navy, a person named John Phelan. 3 people familiar with internal discussions tell the Wall Street Journal that Phelan's firing comes after a rocky tenure under Hegseth, which included tension over Phelan's close relationship with Donald Trump. Quote, Phelan regularly chats with Trump at his Mar-a-Lago club just down the street from his own Florida home, and told lawmakers last year that he exchanges texts with the president about shipbuilding in the middle of the night, as one does. It is just the latest removal of a senior military officer by Pete Hegseth, and it comes after he forced out the Army's top uniformed officer, General Randy George. The New York Times is reporting that the timing of the firing could have consequences. Quote, the tumult could make it harder for the Navy to replenish its stock of Tomahawk missiles and high-end air defense systems, which have been in heavy use in Iran. Phelan has been replaced by Hung Cao, who has been a key ally of Pete Hegseth inside the Pentagon. I want to bring in Politico Pentagon reporter Paul McCleary. Also joining us, retired U.S. Army Brigadier General Steve Anderson. Let me start with you, Paul, and your reporting on this.
Yeah, Phelan came into the Pentagon and as Secretary of the Navy without really any history with the military or particularly the Navy, right? So, he came in kind of blind, and the Navy is hard. I mean, they've been struggling with shipbuilding and ship maintenance for 2 decades at least now, right? So coming into a really difficult job at a really difficult time with no prior history or real knowledge of it he started off behind the 8 ball. And, Phelan kind of bragging that he was exchanging texts with Trump about shipbuilding in the middle of the night might have been part of his undoing here, right? Because he's the one who pushed this idea of this Trump-class battleship, which could cost as much as $17 billion per ship. And it's not something that the DOD, Pete Hegseth, or the Deputy Secretary, Steve Feinberg, want. I mean, it's a huge ship, costs a lot of money, hundreds of sailors aboard, when the Navy wants to go the opposite way, have smaller, more smaller ships with fewer sailors and go more uncrewed systems. So they were really unhappy, I know, at the Pentagon over this Trump-class battleship, and I think that was part of it. And he was just unable to move the needle on shipbuilding, which is a tall task for anybody.
Was there any role that he played in the war?
He's not in the chain of command. I mean, that would be more the CNO, the Chief Naval Officer, and the Central Command commanders. I mean, he's the job of the Secretary is the train and equip mission really for the Navy. So he's not in the chain of command. Could have an effect, somewhat, but he's not really moving ships around the map in the Situation Room.
Okay, well, that makes me feel a little better about the guy that replaces him. Let me show you him. This is Hung Cao.
There's a place in Monterey, California called Lovers Point.
Yeah.
The original name was Lovers of Christ Point, but now it's become, they took out the Christ, it's Lovers Point, and it's really, Monterey is a very dark place now.
Yeah.
A lot of witchcraft and the,
Right.
the Wiccan community has really taken over there. And we can't let that happen in Virginia. Virginia is, I mean, especially down in Roanoke, they're God-loving
Right.
people.
Right.
Richmond, too, and Virginia Beach, and we just need to mobilize Christians across the nation. I mean,